Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime presentation of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's royal visit to Richmond, Virginia. I'm CBS 6 anchor Rob Cardwell. Take a look at this very special coverage of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh's visit to our capital and special address of the General Assembly. The video presentation you're about to see is the same presentation that was placed in the 50-year time capsule at historic Jamestown during America's 400th anniversary commemoration. We hope you too will enjoy it as a keepsake for many years to come.
This is CBS 6 News special coverage. The Queen's visit to Virginia.
Good afternoon, and we'd like to welcome you to CBS 6 special coverage of the Queen's visit to the Commonwealth. I'm Stephanie Rochon.
And I'm Rob Cardwell. We have our entire CBS 6 staff working today covering this historic event for you. And what you're looking at right now is our live truck at RIC, and that is the chartered British Airways flight, a Boeing 777 chartered from the UK and carrying the Queen here to Virginia.
We are waiting for Queen Elizabeth II and her husband Prince Philip to step off that plane at any minute. The Queen, of course, arriving in the Commonwealth for the 400th anniversary of Jamestown. She will be here for a special address to the Virginia Assembly, and then will travel to Williamsburg and will also visit Jamestown today and tomorrow.
And as you see, you know, when we say that Virginia is rolling out the red carpet, we mean so literally.
There it is.
It's not every day that the Queen comes to Richmond, Virginia.
We have some very interesting information about how she travels as you're watching them prepare for the Queen and Prince Philip to disembark. A lot of planning has gone into this trip for her. It starts about 8 to 9 months prior to her even getting off the plane. We are told that she travels with about 2 to 3 tons of luggage, of course, not just for her and Prince Philip, but for an entourage of about 35 people that travel with them. That includes some members of state there, as well as her secretaries, ladies in waiting who will help her. And of course, she travels with gifts that she brings for people like the governor and the first lady that she will be meeting with while she's here, as well as Vice President Dick Cheney and his wife, who are planning to tour Jamestown with her while she's here.
Did you say 2 to 3 tons
2
of
to
baggage?
3 tons. That's what we're told. That's the information we've been given.
Of course, Governor Kane extended this invitation to the Queen to come to Virginia to celebrate the 400th anniversary of the Jamestown settlement just after he took office in January of 2006. And as we said, the Queen doesn't come often. This is her third visit. She came in 1957 on the 350th anniversary of Jamestown. Her first visit to the United States as Queen, by the way. And then, of course, she came in '76 for our bicentennial celebrations. And Governor Tim Kaine, like I said, been planning this ever since he took office. And he has one goal here. He is hoping that this anniversary celebration will boost Virginia's tourism industry, which is already at about $16 billion a year.
It certainly does add a specialness to the anniversary that she is here, and that Prince Philip was able to travel with her as well. I know the organizers were a little disappointed that she couldn't be here for the actual anniversary, but she will be here for part of it.
Right now, they are waiting for her to disembark from the plane, but they will head over to Capitol Square, where there is a very large royal welcome ready for her. The public was invited. As a matter of fact, the gates opened at about 11 o'clock this morning. The largest, most accessible public event for the Queen's visit here to Virginia. They have live music over there. It started at about 1 o'clock. Bluegrass, gospel, jazz, all kinds of things. There are some things that if you are still planning to head on over there, you probably have about 30 minutes to try to get over to Capitol Square. In a little bit, we're going to run down some of the things that people are and aren't allowed to take with them to the Capitol Square grounds.
And once she does get over to the Capitol, this is going to be a very special day for so many people who won what was called the Queen's Lottery to get some special standing positions along her walkabout route that she will take from the governor's mansion over to the Capitol. About 54 people won those lottery tickets in order to get a very close view of the Queen, the possibility of shaking her hand as she walks by.
I know somebody else who's going to be very close, and that is Terry O'Neill. He's the owner of the Penny Lane Pub in Richmond, and a good friend of our Greg McQuaid's, who is at the Capitol Square right now as they're preparing for the Queen's visit. Greg, you there?
Hello, Rob, and Stephanie, I'll tell you, excitement is building down here at Capitol Square. The folks up at the organizers are actually going to be giving the Queen a little taste of Virginia. Bluegrass Band is just finishing up behind me, entertaining the thousands of folks that are gathering on the south lawn of the Capitol Square grounds. Now, they have been gathering here since 11 o'clock this morning. That's when the gates opened up. Parking has been sort of a royal nightmare, if you will, around here, so many people took shuttles down here. They had to walk through some very tight security, but as we found out today, they were not going to actually let all those obstacles get in the way of witnessing history. Now, there are many satellite trucks from all across Virginia, all across the nation, and in fact, we've actually spoken to a few reporters from the BBC as well. The governor spoke with him earlier today, and he said he is looking forward to becoming a part of history with Queen Elizabeth II. Rob and Stephanie, back to you.
Thank you, Greg. And it's so nice to see that the weather has cleared up down there. It was very gray and drizzly earlier today. There was some fear that the clouds might open up again like they did yesterday, but it looks like it is. We've gotten a break in the rain. Hopefully it stopped altogether.
We know a little bit about the weather in England, and apparently it's like this quite a bit. There are a lot of people who are very interested in the Queen. They've seen her on television growing up and things like that, but how much do you really know about the Queen? For a little bit more insight on that, let's head on over to our Cheryl Miller, who is here with our special guest today. Cheryl?
All right, thank you, Rob and Stephanie. Tony Pelling is part of the British government, was for about 25 years or so, and can give us a better perspective on how Americans are reacting to seeing the Queen here in the country versus how the British react to seeing their monarch on a day-to-day basis. Tony, we saw the plane out on the tarmac, and you immediately said that this is a chartered plane. Does the Queen have something that's the equivalent to our president's Air Force One?
There's nothing of the scale and sophistication of Air Force One. There's an organization called the Queen's Flight, but it's on a much more scale attuned to internal travel in the UK. And so whenever the Queen takes a really long-haul flight, she will charter with British Airways. It's good publicity for British Airways, of course. And so the British Airways know what setup should be, and it's done as a matter of routine because the Queen makes lots of visits across the world, and everybody's used to fixing these things up.
And we understand that this particular plane has been specially outfitted for the Queen with some extra accoutrements, including sleeping quarters for both she and Prince Philip.
Well, they're going back on Tuesday evening, and presumably that means that they'll fly through the night. This flight has come during the day, but I'm sure there's been an opportunity for the Queen and Prince Philip to relax during the trip, because we've got to remember this is 5 hours time difference. So what is for us 3 in the afternoon is in fact 8 o'clock.
And
in terms of her body clock.
Of course, and what we see also on the front of the plane is the Royal Standard flag, which is flying, and that's one of the requirements, is that as soon as the plane comes in on the tarmac, the royal flag has to be flying.
Yes, well, wherever the Queen is, the Royal Standard is raised. In Buckingham Palace, you can tell whether the Queen is in residence by looking at the flag. If it's the Union Jack or some other flag, the Queen is elsewhere. If it's the Royal Standard flying, the Queen is in residence.
Now, obviously, they've rolled out the red carpet, but purple is really the true royal color, isn't it?
Well, purple we associate with the church rather than with the Queen. The Queen, I think you associate with red and red carpets, but that goes, I think, for every VIP. We all expect, if we're a VIP, a red carpet. But now you can see somebody inside the plane waving to pull something closer. Obviously, there's a gap somewhere at the present moment.
And what is the protocol standard for Prince Philip when he accompanies the Queen? Does she go first? Does he go first?
The Queen will go first, and he will be 3 or 4 steps behind. That enables them, certainly as they move through along a crowd, to have separate conversations. But the consort, that's Prince Philip, will always be slightly behind the Queen because she's the monarch and he's the consort.
but the fact that they have been a couple, a married couple for over 60 years and a royal couple for as long, I'm sure they've got this down to a very well-oiled machine on how to do this.
Well, I was looking at the number of state visits that she's made. She's made 256 official visits overseas. So by now she must be pretty used to it.
Pretty used to it. And let's talk about the comparing of how when the Queen moves within England to when the Queen is coming to the United States. This is obviously a very special event for us. The Queen rarely comes to the United States, and we've seen how many people want to see her up close. Is this unusual or expected that people would come out and want to see the Queen?
Well, because visits like this are so spread out over time, the Queen often comes informally to the United States, but this is her 4th state visit. The rule I was always taught was that during the reign of one monarch, you do not visit a foreign country in terms of a state visit more than twice. Well, she's come 4 times to the United States. So that suggests that the United States has a special place in terms of British diplomacy and in terms of royal priorities.
But having taken the throne in, I believe, what was it, 1952? She is one of the longest reigning monarchs in the world, so it seems only right that she would make a few more visits than others would, because their reigns would obviously be shorter.
Well, you know, she's crammed a lot in, even if you think in terms of over 50 years. I mean, for example, she's made 15 official visits to Australia. And at the present moment, it's interesting that Prince Edward is in Canada and the Royal Princess Anne is in Ghana. So you know, the royals do spend a lot of time showing the British flag abroad.
Now, the Queen, I mean, going back in history of her family, she was the granddaughter of a king, and then the niece of a king, and then the daughter of a king, and then became the Queen herself.
She's the 40th monarch since William the Conqueror, and the royal family claim direct descendant from King Egbert of England, who reigned. He was originally the King of Wessex and then became the King of England. And my crib says that he reigned from AD 827 to AD 839. So you know, this is a family that goes back a long, long way before Jamestown. I mean, it is quite an inheritance that you have to bear in mind. It's quite a heavy inheritance.
And as we know, the royalty tends to try to keep the royalty within the family. If I remember reading correctly, Queen Elizabeth and Philip are actually distant cousins.
Yes, they're cousins. It seemed a match, you know, not as it were contrived, though there was no doubt that Lord Mountbatten was a patron of Prince Philip when Prince Philip was much younger. But it'll be interesting to see what happens given the rather sad experience of Prince Charles, what kind of arrangements are made for the 2 young princes in terms of when they have to choose to get married.
And we are looking at some live pictures of what the party is. I guess we would call it a party going on at Capitol Square downtown, with a lot of local musicians who are performing there for the Queen when she gets there, and also for the large crowd that is gathered there at the Capitol Square and are highly anticipating the arrival of Queen Elizabeth II. The gates opened at Capitol Square at 11 o'clock this morning. Shuttle buses have been bringing people in. State government workers who work in the Capitol Square area were given the day off today in order to make room for all the visitors who are coming in. And as we mentioned, since it's very rare that the Queen comes to the United States, I would assume that this is an event that's also drawing people from all across the United States, or at least up and down the East Coast.
Well, I'm sure that you know, people who, for example, read the various magazines, there's a tremendous readership of magazines about the royal family in this country as well as across the Commonwealth. So it's probably brought quite a lot of people in. The only thing that I've noticed is that it's taking the royal family, the royal couple, almost as long to get off the plane as it would take you or I to get off a plane.
At least they don't have to go through security when they get off the plane, though. Now, we're seeing some kind of honor guard that is walking up to the red carpet now. Does this mean that the ascending of the Queen is imminent?
I'm sure that no, they won't keep the honor guard standing around too long. And it looks as if there's even somebody there wearing a busby. Is that what I see? Which suggests that they brought some British people in to play. No, it's a pipe band, is it? I can't tell.
I can't tell, but it's...
So they're going to probably play God Save the Queen and also our national anthem. We can't
really hear what they're doing, but it sounds like they are getting ready. This has got to be one of the biggest things. I know I read something that said the Queen's people have been planning for this for the past 8 or 9 months for this 6-day visit. And
well, here's a gentleman who seems to be in charge of all the protocol, and so I think we're waiting for a signal from him that everything is ready for the Queen to step foot in Virginia again. I mean, one thing that's remarkable, I think, is the tremendous changes since she was here 50 years ago. I'm sure some people will point out some of those changes to her. She may even refer to in her speech how Virginia has been transformed in those 50 years when she came to the last Jamestown celebration.
I'm sure, and the Queen has been in Virginia since then. I believe she visited Charlottesville in 1991, but again, not an official visit, and then not back to Jamestown at that point. The flag is flying high, the Union Jack, and we should hopefully see the Queen in just a moment or so.
I hope we see her Stars and Stripes as well.
That would be a fitting for her to see the Stars and Stripes as well.
That's an unusual flag because it seems to have a red stripe down one side, which is not something I associate with the Union Jack.
And we talked about tens of thousands of people gathered at Capitol Square. I'm wondering how many people are gathered at the airport knowing that that's where the Queen is going to arrive.
Yes, I mean, here we are. Here comes the Queen. She's in a light grey costume. You're better placed than I am to describe what she's wearing.
And a lovely pink hat. Under weather that is very fitting and appropriate, seeming more like London.
Well, I suspect it's probably warmer in London than it is here because global warming has set in over there. And they've had an
Cheryl
extremely
and Tony,
hot spring.
We're just going to jump in here with you. We have a little bit more about what the Queen is wearing. She's wearing lilac, in fact, Tony. A lilac wool coat with trim and a lilac wool dress with coral trim and a coral hat. She always matches, doesn't she, Cheryl?
Oh, she does. The Queen has a wonderfully large wardrobe and always wearing a hat and a coat very formally. I'm trying to see if she's wearing white gloves. I understand she usually travels with about 60 pairs of white gloves because during shaking of hands, they tend to get a little bit soiled, and soiled gloves on the monarch just will not do.
Tony, a lot of pomp and circumstance here. From what we understand, the Queen is meeting with 13 government officials, including the U.S. ambassador to London. So they're on their P's and Q's right now.
Well, I think this is more pomp and circumstance than the Queen would normally expect as she travelled around the UK, where she'd probably come off of a train and walk a very short red carpet and simply meet the mayor and the Lord Lieutenant of the county and then be off somewhere. So you're doing her proud at the present moment in terms of the pomp and circumstance of this. It'll be interesting to see whether Prince Philip stops and talks to any of the honour guard.
And security is very tight, both here at the airport and down at the Capitol. We understand there at the airport there are 9 law enforcement agencies represented, including the FBI, Secret Service, British Secret Service. And she's being greeted by 13 government officials. As Rob mentioned, the U.S. ambassador of London is there to greet her as well.
Yeah, the Secret Service, I'm sure, handling the protection of the Queen. The state troopers are going to be helping out with the traffic control and the security. The Queen learned to drive when she was in the Army in 1945, but I don't think she's heading over to the budget rental car office right now. I think they're going to have a very large motorcade that's going to take her from the airport down to Capitol Square.
The band right now playing God Save the Queen.
And if you look carefully, it looks to me as if the theme is red, white and blue in terms of the colours, if those are white gloves. Who's the gentleman standing next to her? I think they're playing the national anthems. Yes.
Now, Tony, we're looking at presently the world's only monarch who simultaneously head of state of more than one independent nation. I mean, in legal theory, she is the most powerful head of state in the world.
She's the head of state of 16 countries, mainly all of them Commonwealth countries, where she still has a role, but it is very much a constitutional monarch where the politicians decide what is to happen, and her representative, the governor generals in various countries, are, as it were, standing in for her.
Yeah, I don't want to go through all of them, but we're talking about Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Jamaica, it goes on and on, about 128 million combined population in that Commonwealth of Realms.
And you all can see that the motorcade has arrived for the Queen. She's about to step in to the car. We understand it is a 12-car motorcade that will take her over to the governor's mansion and then on to the Capitol. And you could see the Duke of Edinburgh just a few steps behind her, and you can see him walking to the other side of the car and stepping in there.
And that, of course, is going to lead to the closures of many streets all along the route as they come in, either on 64 or along Route 5, headed to the state capitol area downtown. And I'm sure there will be people along that route waiting to catch a glimpse of the royal motorcade. The Queen and Prince are traveling with about 3 dozen people carrying luggage. Some will be from what is the British equivalent of the State Department. The rest is staff, so-called, of the royal household, because they have to attend to the Queen, don't they, Tony?
Yeah, well, there are lots of things to be done. There's the publicity to be kept under control. There's all the clothes to be laid out, so the Queen will have many changes of clothes during the course of this visit. Somebody has to collect the flowers that are normally given, and there are bag carriers, and I imagine they brought some journalists from the UK as well with them. This is now a very open monarchy. They actually produce a monthly magazine called Insight, which describes what the royals are doing. That's just a popular magazine, which they're not prepared, as it were, to let the press make their own mileage on it. There's more attempt to manage news than there used to be.
You're watching special CBS 6 coverage of the Queen's visit to Virginia. Queen Elizabeth II and her husband Prince Philip just stepped off their British Airways jet, and the motorcade has left for the Capitol. This portion of our special Queen coverage will last until 6:30 tonight, and that means we want to update you on programming now. We will not have some of your favorite shows this afternoon. If you're hoping to catch Guiding Light, you have two options: set your VCR or stay up late. We'll be showing you today's Guiding Light late tonight, early tomorrow morning at 2:35 in the morning. And Ellen, which normally airs at 4, will not be seen this afternoon, so we can bring you our special coverage of the Queen's visit.
As you said, the royal visit to the Capitol is going to begin with a short reception at the Executive Mansion that's hosted by Governor Kane and First Lady Holton. The Queen and the Prince will then begin a walkabout on Capitol Square, where they'll be joined by the Governor and the First Lady. The crowd gathering on Capitol Square right now, and they've been gathering since the sun came up. And let's join our good buddy Greg McQuaid, who's there with more on all the action down there. Greg?
Well, hello, Rob. From God Save the Queen to good R&B. That's what we have going on down here at Capitol Square. It really is a party atmosphere. For the thousands of people that have been gathering in the South Lawn here at the state capitol, it is truly history in the making. They want to catch a glimpse of the Queen. They don't know just yet that she is landed, and she is only a few minutes away. Now, amidst this party atmosphere, though, there is tight security. Many of the streets and roadways in and around the Capitol have been closed for this very brief visit by Her Majesty. State Police, Capitol Police, you have snipers up on the roofs around the Capitol. Many of the buildings have been closed. We've mentioned that state workers have the day off. They can come down here and catch a glimpse of the Queen and the Governor. The Governor said he is looking forward to this little bit of history and walking up these steps of a beautifully renovated and expanded Capitol. I've covered the General Assembly for several years during my time at CBS 6, and I can tell you that the Capitol has never looked so good. You know, you walk in the stores in and around the Capitol today, and gotta say, the Queen, that is all that is on people's minds in and around here. And as I said, it's a festive atmosphere. I don't think they realize how close they are to seeing this Queen and her husband, Prince Philip, but I can tell you, it is electric down here. People just want to catch a glimpse of this woman who has reigned for more than 50 years, and they want to say that they were a part of history here at Capitol Square. Robin, Stephanie, we're going to send it back to you.
Greg, I was noticing behind you that a lot of people don't know that if they haven't been down there to the Capitol Square, the lawn slopes upward there, the south lawn, so it doesn't really matter where people are gathered around there. They're going to get a pretty